Hey, everybody. We're just waiting for Manny for me to get everything set up. I hope you had a nice lunch. I hope you had a nice afternoon. I did. I took a little break. I had a little bit of had a little break, had a little bit of lunch, had a little bit of meatloaf. I had all sorts of good stuff. So let me find where we're at. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. And here I am. Awesome. So, Whoops. Let me find. There we go. Okay, let's just get ready for the afternoon. I'm going to get ready by picking an animal card. It'll give us an idea of what we're looking at, what the afternoon will look like. Hi, Kimberly. Nice to see you. We're just waiting for Manny to show up. I talked to him earlier today, so it shouldn't be a problem. I'm picking an animal card for the afternoon. All right. Ooh, this is actually one of my very, very favorites. It's a Black Panther. I love the Black Panther. I pull this one actually more often than I should. You know, if you think about how a panther is, especially a Black Panther, it's about reclaiming one's true power. And the Black Panthers have all of the color associations with that. And the Black Panther is more about inner passions. It's about unbridled expressions of baser powers and instincts, an awakening of the Kundalini, a time of not just coming into one's true power. So I love the Black Panther. It's associated with Jesus and healing, which I always thought was really neat. I love it when I read that because it just fits right in. Bacchus and Dionysus, some pretty cool dudes. An awakening to the heroic quest. Great mysticism, symbol. The Black Panther symbol of the feminine, the dark mother, the dark of the moon. It's the symbol for the life and power of the night. A symbol of the feminine energies manifest upon the earth, a symbol of darkness, death, and rebirth. Let's see. It helps us understand the dark and death and inherent powers of them, and by acknowledging them, eliminate our fears and to learn to use the powers. Isn't that cool? I think it's cool how in alignment it is. So let's light a little sage, get the space clear. So I invite anybody who's watching this. Hey, Jenny, nice to see you. I'm inviting everybody just to take a moment and start the afternoon in a good space. So I pulled an animal card. It was Black Panther, which I just love because it's about learning how to work with the night and the Kundalini. And Manny will be sliding in, I'm sure, by the skin of his teeth. So we'll wait to see when he shows up. Actually, I really like knowing Manny. He's a pretty cool dude because he's more like my mother, who's in that intelligent and not and more introverted and not as my mom doesn't get emotionally triggered by anything. You live with 3 Black Panthers. No wonder I like your house. It's wonderful. So he's kind of, on one level, he's a little bit of a nerd, which is fun, which is what we like about him, because he's combined comedy and his nerdism, and he's made it really cool. Okay. All right, so we're already live streaming, my friends. We're already live streaming. There you are. Hi, you look great. Oh, I can't hear you. You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, here we go. That's good. You know, I was just telling everybody that one of the things I like about you is that you're kind of a nerd, and that you've taken that nerdism and combined it with comedy, and it's actually made you surprisingly really cool. I know you don't quite realize that, but you are very cool because you're like a comedy nerd.
I am a comedy nerd, amongst other things. I'm a sci-fi nerd. I used to be into literature. I was really into a lot of stuff very, very deeply.
What kind of drew you to comedy?
Oh, you know, pissing people off. No, just kidding. I like the fact that comedy is a good way to get your ideas out there in a more palatable way, because comedy is always pushing the frontier of where we are as a society, and you finding like that border, and you're like, I wonder what it's like to kind of go past this a little bit. And then, you know, without it being so aggressive or insulting, well, sometimes not so insulting, comedians kind of, they kind of toy around with it or play with it. And then that's how I think comedians kind of play the role in advancing thinking in a very generalized way of saying.
Well, no, I agree with you completely. I watched the Jerry Seinfeld's thing of, you know, comedians in cars getting coffee. And just they reminded me of my dad. My dad's in the printing industry, and he always said that the printers were usually the ones who were the most literate, the ones who knew what was going on with everybody, because they were doing all the printing for everyone. So they were the ones that were the forward thinkers. And I feel the same way about comedians. I mean, you're required to, you know, be looking ahead and looking for the things which make people laugh, but it makes them laugh because they're true and they're uncomfortable. I mean, you have to have a real insight into human nature and where we're going in order to be a good comedian, I think.
Yeah, I mean, finding those frontiers, it's kind of our job. You just see where everybody's at, and then you just go the other way. And the better you are at kind of showing them that other way, and it making sense through having fun or poking fun of it, I think that's what makes a good comedian. Because, you know, if you look at comedy from like the 80s or like the 90s or even the early 2000s, like you could see they're a little bit dated. So you have to be on the forefront of where everyone is at, like be on the same page, and then kind of force them into the funny by turning the page for them and be like, but look at this next chapter. So when it comes to being why I wanted to be a comedian, it's simply because I've always felt that I had that eye in seeing society and kind of just making fun of them. Because when I was younger, I was a very quiet kid, and I always thought that if I were to ever say anything, it would be wrong to say it, or it would be awkward, or, you know, it'd be ostracizing to say what I think about something or someone or people as a whole. I was kind of like an outcast in school. And then when I gained the confidence to say the things that was going in my mind, I feel like some of this stuff is actually fun. So comedy also gives me confidence. I always say that comedy is confidence to speak your mind to that perspective. That's a very confident trait to have.
I feel like you'd have to have you'd really have to be able to tune in to the people around you to be good at the timing and the flow of doing good comedy. And, you know, I think about when I was a kid, one of my biggest problems is I could read what other people were thinking and I didn't know it. And because I was uncomfortable, I'd want to say something. So I would say something and it would always be the wrong thing because it was the thing that everybody was trying to hide. And because of that, I realized later in life that that was my ability to get into that flow of what people were thinking and what people were feeling. Is your internet connection a little off today? Because it keeps slowing down.
I haven't gotten notice. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. I was just worried that if I was talking that I was coming across weird.
Yeah, I can tell there's a little bit of a lag, but I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, good. That's perfect. So, I mean, I always thought you had to have a great intuitive sense in order to have good comedic timing, you know? You had to read the crowd, you had to feel their vibe. Can they go there? Tonight, can we go there? Or is it too hostile? Or especially in this day and age, you're constantly having to walk a fine line because people feel more comfortable acting out, I think.
Yeah, there's a balance. I think a good comedian knows how to handle that balance well. By the way, can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. So I think a good comedian, or a great comedian, or probably even the best comedian that you can be is like you mentioned, read the audience, in different levels, as a collective, as a group of people, as an audience, a faction, and kind of get a sense of where we are in terms of thinking, right, collectively, and kind of seeing the direction that's going, and then finding another direction. And then, but you don't want to do it in a way that gets people angry, because then people just block you out, or you just find the audiences that are interested in insulting you for thinking that way. What you want to do is you kind of just want to effortlessly show them another way of viewing it. And the way to make it effortless is finding the funny. And the faster you are at finding it, that adds another skill to your arsenal of making fun of stuff, I guess. But the way I see it is, in the beginning, most admirable, push to the point where it's a little over the top or outlandish, and it could be funny that way. I mean, there's some instances where that can be very funny, but as you progress and you're making it a profession and you're actually trying to build an audience, you have to find very, very specific and intricate ways to get the funny point across, and reaching that boundary, passing it, and having people like you for doing it, rather than find you apprehensive.
So it's almost more like becoming a version of you that's able to kind of feel the audience, be a thought leader on the cutting edge, that's in a leadership position, kind of helping people look at things in a different way on sensitive subjects, which could change different political climates or temperaments. You're kind of like cutting edge, being the comedian out there, and the more evolved you are, the more in alignment you are, the more successful you end up being, because it's not about finding the right joke. It's about being a thought leader and a leader, and in tune with the flow, with everything going on around you. Is that kind of on ball? Is that kind of accurate?
Well said. I mean, there's your intuitive side speaking. Yeah, nailed it. Thought leadership definitely is something that that goes with comedy, but for some reason hasn't really been pinned to it. But good comedians, they're thought leaders, because they make commentary of the times, like the jokers, like the jests, right? So yeah, thought leadership is probably one of the most I say undermined statuses that we have, because we try to how they say that leaders are the ones that can see into the future and see a better way of thinking or better way of seeing reality. Do that, but instead of it being so traditional as like a leadership would, or someone that gives a really good speech, or a president, or someone like Martin Luther King, who was a leader in the way that he envisioned the world and the things he would say. Comedians do the same thing, but not in that route. Comedians kind of like point the finger at the soft spot and be like, well, isn't it funny that you guys get offended about this? Or isn't it funny the irony about that? Or like, have you looked at it this way? And so, like, you know, with the whole thing that happened at the Capitol today, yesterday, I was talking about, like, you know, isn't it funny that like the left and they kind of show good things about the right, but don't show bad, or like they show the good things about the left, but they don't show the bad, or vice versa, they show the bad but not the good. So I just said as a joke, I was like, you know, have you noticed that the left and right is slowly becoming a spectrum for mental illness? Because there's such extremism.
Yes.
I think like putting that out there allows people to see, you know, kind of like the funny thing about it is like, it's kind of true. There's kind of extremism in both sides.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm not going to go up and do a speech about it, you know, like, oh, have you know, yeah.
Well, I think that good comedians bring people together by getting them to laugh at the same thing. So it's a shared healing experience, because laughter is so physically healing, emotionally healing. And when you can laugh around the same sort of topic or theme, you know, not at each other, but laughing at the reality of things, it brings people together. And after all of this political unrest and emotional unrest that we're going through, I think it's really important to have comedians on the front line almost in a healer role of how are we going to reunite people after all of this divisiveness.
Yeah, the less biased you are, the better you are at comedy refereeing the times. You know, you put up a yellow card on the ironies of the day, or, you know, I also really enjoy, if we go on the topic of political humor, I really enjoy political cartoons as well, because I think they can get a point across with just an illustration. It's no fun if it's biased though, because, you know, I've seen great political cartoons by cartoonists that just stick to one way of seeing it, which is fine, because that means you're really good at that point of view, but you've also have to consider the other point of view. And I think comedy done right is, you know, as our mentors have taught us, comedy done right is like respect and collecting all the views, trying to make all the views together. So that all views will consider the other views as well. Almost as if the funny, but forcing people to have POV, because it makes sense if they just hit so many cylinders. And what makes a joke funny is you getting it. So it's almost like a quick. Are you hearing me okay?
Yeah, I'm hearing you okay. It broke up a little bit, but I was able to catch the gist.
Yeah, it's a comedy's perspectiving. And what you do is when you say something that's funny, you allow one perspective to see another, and vice versa. And that perspective can see the other. If you're biased as a comedian, it's no fun to have the same perspective, in my opinion.
No, I agree, because, you know, we've been talking about being the best version of ourselves that we can be. And the way that we do that is by paying attention to the things we've got emotional triggers around or problems with, and then getting rid of the stress, you know, the old memories or the old emotions around it, so that we can be a better person, so we can be smarter and more creative and you know, do things more intuitively that help humanity rather than, you know, pull it apart. And I think when you become the best version of yourself that you can,
or making them argue more. Like being a good comedian is not allowing people to argue because you're making fun of everyone.
Yes. It puts the argument down. It stops the fighting, and it changes. You're able to get that energy out in a different way through laughter, which I have so much respect for, you know, the healing work that you do.
I never thought of it that way. That's great. Comedy is healing work. I'm going to write that down.
Oh,
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Because so we get this tension, and if we can't we have to find a way to get that tension out. And if we laugh about it, then we don't punch somebody in the face. And if we laugh about it, it's getting the stress off of our system. It brings more oxygen into your system. It brings your body back into a balance and a homeostasis. And when you have a shared healing experience, like with an audience where they're all laughing, we're all laughing, now there's a magnification of all of that. All of those beta endorphins, all of the healing chemicals and healing vibes, they magnify. I can almost walk into a comedy club because, I am empathic, so I feel everything. I can walk into a comedy club and feel the energetic difference because there's been fun and laughter and shared enjoyment. It's like the vibe in a comedy club is higher. Generally, if it's good, good comedy, than just walking off the street.
Yeah, comedy brings people together. Absolutely. It also is a very effortless way to have a conversation, a difficult conversation. Comedy is such an underdog art. I mean, but it's so important. We all laugh one way or another. And for some reason, comedians aren't considered to be artists, but we really are artists, and we allow these thoughts and these conversations and these ideas to come together in a way that emerges a new way of thinking that's not necessarily so impactful, but rather working in the background as maybe, possibly, wouldn't it be funny if that way?
Well, and you introduce people to new ideas. I was thinking today about time because we were talking about time earlier. Jenny's, I think, is still on the call. And we were talking about how it's almost like, how we're seeing stars that might actually be dead because it takes that long for the light to get to us. And so we're actually, whenever we look at stars, we're looking into the past. Things we need to plan today for our future self and make choices today which get us to the point where we're evolved, where we're thinking. And comedians start breaking that ice so that a future,
yes,
better version of someone can happen 7 years down the road. There you are. Oh, you're muted.
You were saying the stars reaching up to us after a period of time has passed, right?
Right. So time is really very wiggly and relative. And a lot of things have already happened because of the choices that we make today. So when comedians come and they start shaping the future, when they introduce new ideas and plant new seeds in that field of that thought field, they're talking to our future self. We're already planning for who we want to be. So comedians shape our future by getting people to think in new ways that are beneficial to humanity. If we'd had more comedians, we wouldn't be in this pickle we are in now.
Oh, that's so true. And they tried the PC people had tried muting us because we don't agree with their point of view, or their point of view was challenged, and then it upsets them. Isn't that crazy that comedians are being shut down just for making fun of your point of view? That's insane to me. That's a really good analogy as well, Rita. You're so insightful. So yeah, comedy can be like light pushing the boundaries of culture. Like we say the things now, and then later on it gets caught on once the mind shift occurs. Like look at George Carlin. Some of the things George Carlin talked about.
He was a thought leader.
It's relevant today. I mean, as cynical as he was, but some of the things is like, I was like, this guy was ahead of his time.
Well, and that's it. Comedians should be ahead of their time because they're part of what shapes, what our country looks like, what our culture looks like. When we go just to base, he said, she said, I'm good, they're bad sort of jokes, then that's the direction we are. I mean, for a certain period of time, comedy kind of was a little lowbrow for a while. People just sort of went for what was the easy joke, which was what was most shocking, or what was physical humor, although physical humor is so nuanced and subtle. But, it didn't challenge people to think as much in the future, as much about who they are and who they want to be. And I love how comedies have kind of evolved into that.
Comedy, the way I see it is there's different preferences, right? Comedy is what you laugh at is very subjective, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
And you got to dabble a little bit in of everything. So like, I'm not a fan of slapstick. Like, I don't like the goofy kind of comedy, but I like watching it to see why people find it funny. That way, if I ever see an opportunity to maybe let a little goofiness out of me or say something slapstick, I kind of like added in my arsenal or my utility belt of funny, where it's like, I could be a little slapstick, for the occasional slapstick audience. So, how when you look at a pie chart and it shows you like the percentage of something, let's say like, when you look at an investment ratio, it's like you got 30% here, 20% here, 10% here. I think comedians can be the same way. You can have like 10%,
I see.
20% lowbrow. Witty 30%. And so that whole thing comes together and it makes a comedian, whether accessible to some or not accessible to some, based on their style, their comedy style. So, there's deadpan, there's highbrow, there's lowbrow, there's political, and some comedians double down on their market more than others. That's why you see like cultural comedians and you see political comedians like Bill Maher, Jon Stewart. Like these comedians, they know who their audience is and they put all their efforts in being that kind of a comedian. In my case, since I'm still working more on the entrepreneurial side, I can have fun any way I want. I could just do anything as a comedian. I don't have to be on national television and just focus on one market. I can focus as many as I want, but so it's my personal preference to kind of like enjoy comedy as a whole, like a large spectrum of comedy styles. For me, my favorite kind of comedy is the witty kind, like the one that gives the remark or the one that adds the little glimmer in the eye when at the right time, kind of like Oscar Wilde, Mark Twain. Like I think I would like to embody, I believe I would like to embody like that kind of humor to the modern age.
That would be fun. So why do people like slapstick? Did you find out?
Yeah, I love Groucho. So what's great about Groucho Marx is, he was a very intelligent person. But when you look at the Marx Brothers and like their movies, like Horse Feathers and all that, it's slapstick. It's like goofy humor. Then just like making it like kind of like the Three Stooges. And so when you look at someone like Groucho, you can see that divide between him playing the character and him being himself. And the character is mustachioed with the glasses and he's going around beating up on his brothers or, saying the goofy thing. Or you can have Groucho in You Bet Your Life, where he just acts as himself, still kind of looks like his character. And he's just saying witty remarks to any of the contestants in that game show. So that's a good example of someone that can do a complete divide between his comedy style. At the same time, being one as a whole. Because even though
he's not divided about it, it's just a different aspect of him.
Exactly. It's another angle to his style. So that's a great example of comedians kind of like getting in touch with probably like a whole different version of themselves to be a character or a caricature. I don't know if did we talk about characters and caricatures on the last interview?
I don't think so.
So one of the frictions that I had in finding my voice as a comedian is whenever I do my shows or my live streams is like, I kind of like get into this different energy. And then whenever I do like masterminds or group conversations just like this, I'm in a completely different aspect of it. So one thing that I was reading up on is the difference between caricature and characters. So a caricature is like an overemphasized version of your personality or who you are. So for example, Groucho Marx with the mustache and the glasses is a caricature. However, if you were to dress up as a horse with feathers and actually act out that particular, that's a character. So, but if you can find out the difference between the two, you can now have different levels to being a comedian, because you now know where to place yourself rather than being confused on how do I come off or how should I come off. You could just be like, today I'm going to be a character. And then, you know, when you do improv, it's like, okay, you're in Kmart and you're shopping for the final shampoo that you need for whatever. And then you can also do a caricature, which is, all right, act like you're pissed about something. And then I told you, right? And then you kind of just like overemphasize that part of you.
Boy, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought about it nuanced like that, but yeah, that's a cool way of looking at it. And I've done both. You know, clearly the live streams I do are a little bit more of a caricature of me, whereas in the past I've been more characters because I didn't feel as connected to them. They didn't feel as much as if they were me.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've been in this business for a while.
Characterization is you in the process of making a character. It's almost like the middle part.
Mm-hmm. And we were talking about earlier, you know, shoulds, and how we get so kind of locked up in our head about what we should do instead of focusing on intuitively who we are. You know, one of the big things is when we become who we are, more of who we are, more integrated, more whole, we listen to our intuition better, we're more dialed into a flow. When we live that way, then we don't get very confused about what to do, because we always, I just have to check in, see what feels right for me and follow that. Versus, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do the other thing? It's
one of the deterrents of people being a comedian, what you described, because we all have a sense of humor and we all know what makes us laugh, but for some reason we don't know how to portray it or do it on command, rather. So one of the things I show as a coach is getting in touch with your sense of humor, to have the confidence to go with that flow that you're mentioning. Because sometimes people worry, it's like, well, if I say something, what happens if it's not funny? Well, then you learned something about your sense of humor. You learned something about the person. Most of the times we just get deterred by something so simple as what will others think? And comedy breaks that barrier in strides. Like that's probably like one of the ultimate ways to get over the barrier of what will others say? Which is like a little private fear we all have.
And here's the hack for that. The hack for that is, you don't think about what other people are saying. Instead, if I want to say something funny, I'm going to say it and then I'm going to laugh at it. And then my vibe tends to get the other person to laugh at it too, even if they have no idea what I just said. You know, which is why in the audiences, they'd always put somebody who is the designated clapper, you know, to start the applause, because it's infectious. And so many times if I want to be funny, I just laugh at myself and everybody else laughs too. And I'm funny.
Can you hear that?
No, I can't.
You can't
Was
hear
it a crowd?
Yeah. I kind of got this soundboard to do exactly what you're describing. I think in the book, Influence, was it Influenced by Robert Cialdini? I think that they talk about how contagious laughter is. Yeah, I think it was that book. And then like, if you were to have like if you were to watch like a sitcom and you're in the audience and then they record a laugh track and then they just play it every time. And then people at home are just like, yes, now this is the part where I laugh. So I got this soundboard and it has like applause and laughter.
Great.
Like a drum roll. So whenever I do my podcast, since I'm doing it, you know, virtual stand-up comedy, it's like, you know, it'd be great if I just added some cans.
Yes.
Kind of like add the to the show itself.
It adds flavor, it adds color, it adds drama, just like my fairy colors and your Miami colors. You know, the lighting and the sounds. It's like it's like a composition. You know, we're looking at it from all of these different angles and human nature. So yeah, if I want to be funny, seriously, I really just laugh And most people will laugh just to be polite, if nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, well, at the end of the day, as long as you're having fun, you can't lose.
Right. Because people feel your vibe, and you feel your vibe, which is healthy and healing.
That's the way I see it. I mean, as long as I'm not impeding on anyone, if I'm having fun and you're not laughing with me, that's really on you. It's not my problem. Because if I say something, I was like, that's hilarious. And then,
if I say something and you're not laughing, it's not my problem.
Yeah,
I thought it was funny. I had a good time.
I'm not gonna burden myself with that. As long as it's fun and you're not impeding, like why would you be down about someone not laughing at your joke? It's like keep having fun by yourself. I think in NLP, there's a saying that goes, being happy for no reason. Imagine that. Like imagine I'm just happy. It's almost the same way. It's like, I'm just having fun. Why wouldn't I want to have fun with myself? Right? Why do I have to wait for someone's approval before I have fun?
Yes. That's exactly it. It's when the focus in body work, they developed a therapy like in the 60s in California. So, it was cutting edge. It was thought leadership stuff. And it was called Brema. And the idea behind Brema was every movement you do as a massage therapist is done because it feels good for you. And the person that you're working on that's getting the treatment will benefit as a result. So the idea is always for me to stretch and move and twist and do whatever in a way that feels good to me. Like, oh yeah, that really gets into my back, or, oh, this kind of feels fun because it's, I'm weighted and look, I can lean back and I'm not falling. You can do all sorts of cool stuff. And the other person benefits as a result. So you're not supposed to obsess about what anyone else is experiencing. You're just supposed to focus on feeling. I know it feels like so narcissistic. You're supposed to focus on authentically feeling good, and it makes everybody else around you feel good too.
I wouldn't say it's narcissistic. I say that you just know how to self-care. Some of my coaching clients, one thing I realized is that some of them they're so worried about caring for others. Like there's 2 clients of mine that I talk to about this, and they care about people in their lives, but they self-sacrifice themselves for that. Like they worry too much about, like, are you okay? But it's like, well, how are you going to take care of them if you're not taking care of yourself? If you're in bad shape, you're not giving them the care that you're willing to give them. You can do more by caring for yourself.
Do you want to hear another layer? Because I come from a place of, trauma and victimhood. So the other layer is some people like me, and a lot of women, they take care of other people. They're worried about other people, let's say, because it's also a safety thing. If you're okay, then I'm going to be okay. Then I don't have to worry about your crap. I don't have to worry about you having a temper tantrum. Okay, you're okay. You're good. You're happy. All right, now I can live my life. But that's one of those personality traits that Anand talked about, of coping mechanisms when you're in fight or flight, the people pleasing, and we people please to get out of that feeling of, I don't know what to do and I'm stressed. And it's just one of the bad coping skills we have, instead of, going for a walk or going seeing you live or, whatever, laughing their butt off.
Yeah, it's a catch-22. As an agentic person, I look out for myself first so that I can look out for others. And the more I get in touch with my empathic side, the more I realize that this is the best way that I can be empathic. If I'm okay, right? If I'm feeling okay with myself, I can make others feel okay in my presence. Or if I come across something that they're going through, and if I'm in a good position, if I'm feeling good about me, then I can help you out with my empathic side. I realized that, as a matter of fact, when I joined the VCA and I got in touch with the feelers out there. So instead of being like I brush off people that aren't aren't on my level, or thinking style instead of feeler, I now was like, oh, I feel good today, so let me go ahead and be empathic to this person. And you feel joy. It's funny how when you get in touch with speaking of comedy and getting in touch with another side of your comedy side, when you get in touch of another side of your personality, it can be quite, it can be joyful. There was a homeless lady by where I work, and she was like, hey, can you buy me a Coke? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And I went inside a 7-Eleven, and I didn't buy her the can. I bought her like the large one, and I gave it to her. She like, you should see the happiness in her face when she received it. And I'm like, and then when I walked away, I was like, that felt amazing. I'd love to do that more often. And it came from a good place as an agentic person. It came from a really good place. And I told myself, I was like, I should do that for no reason more often. Just be more giving of the joy to people. And that's because
that's the thing that people miss out on, is they think there's a right way or a wrong way. Because, you know, you can have some people that'll be like, you bought her a Coke? That's terrible. I can't believe you did that. You know, all that sugar. Couldn't you have bought her a piece of fruit? You know, there's all these other ways that people can go. But in healing, the rule of thumb is whatever you believe will work for you is what will work for you. So if someone thinks that surgery will help them, then they need to follow that route and do the surgery. And it doesn't matter what they believe. It's just that they need to believe in it. So when we give something to someone that isn't, you know, PC or isn't, but it brings them joy, it brings them happiness, that's more healing than, you know, well, why would you want a Coke? I got you an orange instead, or or whatever, with all the judgmentalism. When we feed the joy, that heals the body thousands of times more than almost anything else that we can do, because it gives us the energy and the motivation to take a healthier next step, because you cared about her, so she's going to care a little bit more about herself.
Well, it was also a Diet Coke, so it wasn't that unhealthy.
Oh, but then we get into, you know, artificial sweeteners. So don't, and how addictive and toxic they are and cancer causing.
Yeah, getting in touch with my empathic side has also made me a better comedian, because I now consider the feelings of others as well, because my jokes can be outlandish, and I have fun when I go the outlandish route, because I like ruffling up some feathers. Like, that's some of the fun parts of being a comedian. It's like, you mess them up a little bit. But there's some people that can't take that. There's some people that are very sensitive to, you know, being challenged. So I remember one time there was a comedian on stage. This has happened recently, actually. And he was saying some outlandish stuff. And I remember this is a karaoke bar. So some people go there waiting to sing karaoke. And, you know, it can be a very family friendly kind of environment where people want to go up and sing Hakuna Matata. And then you have a comedian go out there saying some outlandish stuff. And they're just like, right, clutching the pearls, like, oh my God, right? So I see this lady like just losing her mind to what this guy is saying, and everyone's laughing, but this one is like, so instead of like approaching,
he's getting traumatized, right? Exactly.
Instead of like approaching her and saying, you know, this is what we do. If you don't like it, you can. I just went up to her and I was like, hey, listen, I just want to let you know that like this guy is, I know it's outlandish, but it's just one guy, and he's not doing it specifically for you. Like, this is, people are having fun. So whatever it is, don't even pay attention. This guy, you know, he's just a crazy guy. And then like, just the fact that I got, you know, in touch with her, because she kind of like needed confirmation from someone to be like, what is this? And then the fact that I went up and I told her that, she kind of enjoyed it more now, because she's like, oh yeah, it's just a guy's opinion and he's not specifically attacking me. And you could see her immediately just relax, just because someone came up to her and confirmed her feeling. And then I realized, like, I really avoided a bad Yelp review just by reaching out, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly it. The more empathic you are, the more in tune you are to what's going on, the better you navigate it. And it doesn't mean you're going to, you know, something specific is going to come to you, but it means you can see the opportunity. You're looking ahead, you're looking 4 or 5 steps ahead. You say, okay, this is coming. I have a good friend in my life who is from New York, and they grew up close to New York City and spent a lot of time with punk music and in the clubs and the crowds. And they are a thought leader. So I love to talk to them, because they're constantly talking to me about what's coming up, what's on the cutting edge, what's new out there, what's creative. And it feeds me so that I can stay relevant, I can stay innovative, and I can serve people better, because I better understand what's going on in the world.
Yeah, having points of views, like how we mentioned earlier, is what makes you not only a better comedian, but a better person. And I think it gives you creativity too. Now that I think about it, if I can make fun of the comedian on stage now based on the point of view by that lady that was appalled, you know, I could,
Yes.
it just came to me as like, if I went up on stage and I was making fun of the comedian instead of like, can you imagine the kind of personality you got to have to go up on stage and say outlandish things in front of strangers? What kind of career are you pursuing here? So just the fact that I'm now seeing her perspective, I can now make fun of not only the person getting offended, but now I can make fun of the person on stage saying outlandish things for no reason to strangers. So
right. It gives you more material to work with.
Exactly.
You know, and another audience that you can connect with.
Exactly.
So smart. Well, I know you've got another call coming up. Would you do another 30-minute, session with somebody for who would you do that?
They always surprise me with these. Yeah, the thing is my schedule is really hectic, but I'd be more than happy to, like I said, reach out and help someone. But it's going to have to be at a very specific time, because once I have my scheduling set up, I can reach out to the folks that win. And yeah, I'd be more than happy to do it, but it's got to be at a certain schedule when I'm ready for it. Because
no problem, because that's what we want. We don't want you stressed. We want you in a good place.
And I want to do it right. I don't want to do it where it's like, hey, I gotta. So I got some
Everybody understands that,
and I gotta make the flyers and produce it and all that thing and get the.
We're just so grateful because you don't really quite get what a fresh voice you are. You're a voice that isn't overly dramatic. And you just have such a good grounded feel that it would be hard for people to take too much offense to you. You're able to say things because your personality just sort of softens it. And that's really refreshing for how you think. Honesty. So you have so much to offer.
It's honesty is the best policy. And you know what? The truth shall set you free. And the sooner you are telling it, the better.
I love that. That's awesome. Cool. On your schedule, on your time, no problem. We're just so grateful because everybody loves you anyways.
Send me the email.
I will. Okay, so I'll let you get going. Get ready for your other call. Thanks, Manny.
Thank you. Bye, Rita.
Bye. Well, that was a lot of fun. So we've got Antonio with the curly hair from Italy and Ginny coming in about 17 minutes. So that should be a fun conversation. I hope you're able to join us about money rules and kind of things you can put into place to help you work through your money drama. And we all have a lot of money drama, tons of money drama, just because it's layered up. So they're in good, bad, and indifferent. So we will be talking about the rules and have a great conversation. So I'll see you soon, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.